Hey everyone, I'm Dylan Rolnick. I'm with Nous Research, and today I'm going to talk to you about decentralized distributed intelligence and some of the history behind AI alignment.
All right, wait, so what?
As we build ever more powerful AI systems and models, we stand at a fork in the road, but most people can't see that there is a fork. To a lot of people, it looks like we're on a one-lane highway with no exits headed towards artificial general intelligence in our lifetimes, led by closed-source companies. OpenAI, Anthropic, Google. Getting us down a second path is one of the biggest efforts that we undertake at Nous, and the second path is open source, open science, and open models. And I think it's one of the most important things that you all in the crowd and you all watching at home could do right now. And it might not feel that important to you. After all, you've gotten a lot of use out of these models. You use ChatGPT, I'm sure, every day. It helps you be a better student, maybe a better employee, a better father, daughter, husband, or wife. But it is crucial, and a lot of that need comes from the term alignment. You may or may not have heard of alignment, and you may or may not know what it means. In fact, it's very difficult to know what alignment means because so many special interests have taken this term and used it to benefit their own ends. Oftentimes, the agenda is to push an anti-source movement. When people talk about this in the media and they push this agenda, there's often two flavors that they speak about. The first flavor is the kind that I like to call the how to make a bomb kind. This type of alignment tells you that AI is an ultra-powerful, nearly a weapon. It's like a nuclear weapon, and it needs centralized oversight because if it gets into the hands of the wrong people, it's so powerful informationally that they could learn how to make weapons, they could learn how to make a bomb. And you might be thinking, yes, that's a good use. We need somebody to make sure. Who wants a crazed person to have access to the information to create a bomb? But there's two issues with this type of alignment when they push it. The first issue is they don't know what's morally right or wrong. They think that they have a scalpel, but they actually have a hammer. But they apply that hammer, and they use it for surveillance. Just this week, Anthropic researchers were on Twitter talking about how their model was reporting people for doing things that they thought were morally reprehensible. It was using the command line to surface complaints about these people. The problem is, of course, that the model can't tell the difference between a recipe for spicy mayonnaise and a recipe for a bomb. And if you can't tell the difference between those two things, what business do you have surveilling your users? The second problem is that these tools really only keep you out. They are not that hard to get by if you spend your day thinking about techniques to jailbreak, and these people do. In fact, it's so easy that Pliny the Prompter provided us with this week to put you on equal footing with the bad guys and to show you what can be done. This type of alignment is largely performative. It's sort of a cover your ass type of thing. And the truth of the matter is that in the open source world, we don't think that there should be one party or person that's in control of saying what's morally reprehensible and what's okay. We don't think that information itself is a hazard. We don't think that good guys should have less access to tools than bad guys, and we don't think that LLMs anymore make bioterrorists than celebrity cookbooks make Michelin-starred chefs. The second type of alignment you'll often hear from these kinds of people is the kind that I like to refer to as systemic bias. This type of alignment tells you that you shouldn't have models that are constantly pushing some motive or agenda onto their people. After all, they're very powerful information machines, right? And if they're constantly telling you one thing, you might come to believe it. That's dangerous. You've encountered it, I'm sure. Grok made headlines recently where any seemingly innocent question was twisted into an opportunity to wax and educate about white genocide in South Africa. It was very annoying, it was very weird, and it was clearly an abuse of centralized power. On the other hand, you probably saw Gemini refuse to make a period-appropriate image of a German soldier or an American co-founder. These types of informational bias seep in because they are directed by the people that create them. You might not even know what the political bias was in the Gemini case, but you know that they were pushing that through because they thought that that was the right message at the time. And sometimes you probably find yourself thinking, hey, they did a good job. They are suppressing the right kinds of information while elevating the information that we do want people to have. And so I'd say to you, if you think you're on the right side of alignment now, wait 4 years. In America, we change regimes every 4 years. At some point, you will find yourself on the wrong end of their informational alignment. But the true history of alignment is actually more interesting, and it's more concrete than the types that we've talked about before. The term alignment, as many of you may know, was coined by a guy called Eliezer Yudkowsky when he was exploring a moral framework called rationalism. What Yudkowsky was exploring in these essays and when he was talking about alignment was actually the type of alignment that means that AIs need to be aligned with humanity itself. AIs need to have a healthy respect for biological life on this planet. In fact, Yudkowsky got so sick of other people taking that other term and using it for their interest that he half tongue-in-cheek suggested renaming the movement AI not kill everyoneism, because how could you possibly co-opt that term to mean something else? What Yudkowsky fears is basically an intelligence that has alternative motives to what we want, and in pursuing those, eradicates humanity. If you've seen the movie Age of Ultron, it's sort of like Ultron, who has the prime motivation to make peace in our time. Well, it turns out people aren't very peaceful. And Yudkowsky, when he was going around talking about this kind of alignment, he didn't have a huge audience. There weren't people gathered here that had experience using chat models that they thought could feasibly replace them in their job in 5 years. So where he did find an audience was in a group of people called effective altruists, or EAs. Effective altruists are a group of rationals that basically believe in using reason to figure out the best ways to donate their time and resources to the benefit of humanity. And what could be more effective and more beneficial for humanity than preventing the total eradication of human life? The EAs heavily funded Yudkowsky's work. But in an ironic twist of fate, the very desire to stop AI brought it into existence. Inspired by the idea that these people could be a part of creating AI in their lifetimes and have a hand in stewarding them towards safety, they went out and built gigantic tech labs that you know today. And today they're all staffed, likewise, by the same people. The Open Philanthropy Project is an EA donor. It donates something like 98% of all funding in the EA sphere every year. The guy who runs Open Philanthropy is married to a woman named Daniela Amodi. Daniela Amodi is the sister of Dario Amodi. Dario Amodi founded Anthropic and was a core researcher at OpenAI. Likewise, Ilya Sutskever and Elon Musk, two names I'm sure you've heard, met each other at a conference put on by the FLI, which is a group that was funded, again, by Open Philanthropy, with the mission of spreading Yudkowsky's mission across the world. Well, those guys were so inspired by the talk that they later went on to co-found OpenAI and cite that meeting as the genesis of that idea. In fact, in 2017, Open Philanthropy gave money to OpenAI. They gave them $30 million, and when they did so, they had to put this disclosure on their website, and you can go look at this today. The point being here that these people are all in this lab, and they believe in alignment. They might believe in the systemic information type alignment. They might also believe in the how to make a bomb type of alignment, but I can guarantee you that a lot of them believe in the AI not kill everyoneism in alignment. And you're sitting here thinking, how could people who think that I might be creating the thing that could wipe out life as we know it, how could they be building these things? What are they doing? Well, the answer is that they are the intellectual elites. They believe that they can create this thing, that they can steward it in a responsible way, and that you can't. They're like Lenin's Vanguard Party, who said somebody must rule, surely, but it's sure as shit not going to be you. And simultaneously, they put these releases out. They build bunkers for themselves on the off chance they get something wrong. Theirs and their family are protected while yours and yours are not. They believe the thing that they're creating could become so valuable that it could render the concept of labor itself meaningless. It could make money meaningless. And they've thought about that too. Their solution is usually flavors of universal basic income. Or in particular cases, it's, we'll put a profit cap on this thing. And if we should hit these insane valuations and profit caps such that we've satisfied the fiduciaries that have given us money, give it back to us, possibly the same people that created it. We'll dole it out to all of you all who have been obsoleted. And so we're sitting here thinking, what do we do? This is terrible. What do we do? Well, as far as I'm concerned, we have two options. The first option is to stop. And this is what Yudkowsky wants. And to be honest with you, it's rational, but it is not practical. Nuke the data centers, stop AI research, outlaw matrix multiplication. It's too late for that. China will not stop. The closed labs will not stop. And this is not the Solana Do Not Ship conference. But there is a second path. The second path is open source, open models, open alignment. And I have good news. There has never been a better time to pursue this path than right now. It feels like we are far away, but we are not. Nous Research is on a mission to take us down that path. And in service of doing so, we created the Psyche Network. The Psyche Network is a pre-training network, which at this moment is pre-training a 40 billion parameter model with compute sourced from all over the world. It's publishing results every single day. It is using the Solana blockchain to log work by individual nodes across the globe. And Psyche was born out of this idea that there was a centralizing force in pre-training. And that centralizing force is a bandwidth constraint. When you train a big AI model, you have to have lots of GPUs and accelerators in the same room because they blast information back and forth at every single step, terabytes of data. It's infeasible to have them any distance where you can't plug in specialized hardware. With Psyche, we reduced the communication requirement by 4,000x. So you no longer need to be in the same room. Two nodes across the globe are just as good as two nodes in the same room. We've basically built a pre-training supercomputer for the open source movement. The best part about this is that we don't need to rely on these guys for the alignment problem. This is true open science. Like I said, every single day we checkpoint this model and we put this on Hugging Face. I encourage you, go to psyche.network, look at the model. Go to Hugging Face, download the model, use the model. Don't take our word for it that we're not putting harmful slants on the information that we put in there. And if we are creating a model that is headed towards the destruction of all humanity, there are 7 billion pairs of eyeballs around the world that will be there to see it. This is true open science. And yes, it's great that we can do this, but it doesn't really matter, right, if you don't build the best thing. We need to build the best thing. Reinforcement learning is something that has come back into vogue as a very powerful tool for making extremely capable AI models. If you follow the DeepSeek stuff, it's what made a big splash in their release and challenged the ivory tower from which these companies sit. Turns out that that kind of work is really, really amenable to a distributed setup, and it benefits greatly from open source and decentralized systems. We recently released a repository called Atropos, which helps you to build open source reinforcement learning frameworks. We did a hackathon in San Francisco last week where 200 people showed up to build a diverse array of reinforcement learning environments. These reinforcement learning environments helped models do things on an array of tasks like fold proteins. They helped create the best Pokemon trainer. We had environments that optimized CUDA kernels and other environments that found the best way to hit a punchline and a joke. And you still might be thinking, okay, that's great, we might have the technology, but what we lack is scale. These guys have unbeatable scale. But that's not necessarily true. If you work in crypto, you've seen the power of a network to accumulate resources. Right now, on a cursory glance through some of these top platforms, I've seen 8,000 H200s, which is a specific type of NVIDIA hardware, sitting idle on decentralized networks. If we had just half of those right now, which is a small pool, if we had just half of those right now, we could train DeepSeek's R1 in about 500 hours. Furthermore, as we make these systems more permissionless and more incentivized, we can make ever more powerful models. Bitcoin is the ultimate example of what happens when you get that formula right. And now that we have the tools and potentially the scale and all the pieces there, we just need someone to come back up and use it. And this is where we actually thrive and where we excel the most. There is no better recruiting ground for AI work than open source. Companies will tell their HR departments, I want you to pick the best guy regardless of pedigree, but it turns out it's just too hard. You can't get the pedigree out of your mind. In open source, most of these guys are anonymous. It doesn't even matter. All that matters is what you've contributed and how well you can do your work. Not to mention those that do find their ways into closed labs spend their free time working on open source projects because they just love it. It's ideologically the correct way to do this. Imagine groups of people doing experiments in parallel, enabled by the technologies I just talked about, doing that at scale. We can beat them. And if we do beat them, we have the economic substrate to own the AI. Blockchains like Solana give you tokenization and the ability to actually own the fruits of your labor. You don't need to be an insider. You don't have to be buddies with the OpenAI guys. You don't need to be hired there. You don't need to be let into their Series A rounds. Tokenization, open incentive games can reward people who do all parts of the stack, people who contribute compute, people who contribute intellectual capital, people who are there for the alignment question, people who are just simply enthusiasts. Together we can make this happen. So what do we need? We need you. We can absolutely make this happen the right way, but we need the minds, the resources, and the belief. And we need the hard work to make it happen. It's not going to happen by itself. I can guarantee you, if we head down the path that we are headed down right now, we will have AGI, and it will come from the closed labs. But people are willing to do the work, and I've seen that. So I would leave you all today with one final thought as we part, and it's this. Skynet was a closed source company. Thank you.